Good afternoon. Today, a few minutes ago, in the Middle District of Alabama, a grand jury returned an 11-count indictment charging the Southern Poverty Law Center with 6 counts of wire fraud, 4 counts of bank fraud, and 1 count of conspiracy to commit money laundering. According to the charges in the indictment, the SPLC is a nonprofit entity that purports to fight white supremacy and racial hatred by reporting on extremist groups and conducting research to inform law enforcement groups with the goal of dismantling these groups. As the indictment describes, the SPLC was not dismantling these groups. It was instead manufacturing the extremism it purports to oppose by paying sources to stoke racial hatred. The indictment describes this conduct in detail, but one troubling example is that the SPLC was paying a member of the leadership group that planned the Unite the Right protest in Charlottesville, Virginia in 2017 that resulted in the death of one person and injured dozens more. This particular person being paid by the SPLC allegedly received approximately $270,000 over the course of 8 years. In total, according to the indictment, between 2014 and 2023, SPLC paid at least $3 million to 8 individuals at least. These individuals were affiliated with the Ku Klux Klan, United Klans of America, National Socialist Movement, Aryan Nations Affiliated Sadistic Souls Motorcycle Club, the Nationalist Socialist Party of America, Nazis, and the American Front. Now, as the indictment lays out, after SPLC paid members of these extremist groups, it created work product that reported on these activities that the members participated in or contributed to. And to that end, it was doing the exact opposite of what it's told its donors it was doing, not dismantling extremism, but funding it. To carry out this scheme, SPLC created bank accounts in the name of at least 5 completely fictitious organizations that had no bona fide employees or legitimate business purpose. The money was passed from SPLC to one sham account to a second sham account and then loaded onto prepaid cards to give to the members of the extremist groups. This was designed to shield the source of those funds, and because of this, SPLC is also charged with 1 count, as I said earlier, of conspiracy to commit money laundering.
All right. Well, welcome back to the show. SPLC has a spot right really close to my ass, not my heart. And for those of you that saw the news recently in the last week or so, the SPLC's been exposed for exactly who they are, right? They're a radical extension of the Democratic Party. They weaponized the SPLC to come after us, to destroy us. Parents, politicians, parents organizations, anything that doesn't align with the ideology of the left, and they weaponize it. And they actually do a really, really good job of weaponizing it. And then you got all these NGOs that are taking it, the media is taking it, and they're coordinating with the FBI, with law enforcement to attack us. And we're gonna talk a little bit about what happened to me personally. For those of you from Illinois, you're very familiar with Shannon Adcock. Shannon and I collaborated a few times, and the radical left, Jeff Tischhauser, who we're going to talk about, he's a Chicago Antifa associate that writes for the Southern Poverty Law Center, and I'm going to work on getting that out more public. This just gets in line with how radicalized they are. They actually have a far radical leftist. His father was a leftist. His father got arrested. He brags about it on his Blue Sky account, right? And he works with the Antifas, and he's writing as if he's an investigator. He's an investigator investigating us. And everything's bias, everything's a lie. So we're going to show you some of that stuff. There was 2 stories that he published on me. Again, this is right after I first got into politics. I was, speaking out first about the COVID masking. Very similar track to Shannon Adcock in Awake, and once I got involved with that, I saw about the porn, the oral sex BJ pictures in our kids' schools. I'm like, what the hell? I couldn't believe it. So I started speaking out against that. And we have Democrats that are Antifa. Mary Lemansky, she was in our school. She was on the left, was fighting against her about the porn. Well, Mary Lemansky came out as Antifa. Mary Lemansky was putting my pictures and other fathers' pictures up on the Antifa site. Jeff Tischhauser is Antifa. Jeff Tischhauser works with Antifa. We're going to show you that. So that's how I got on the radar. What I forgot to put up, what we're going to show later, is that Jeff Tischhauser sent to my kids' schools FOIA requests as the SPLC. I just found those today, Mike. FOIA requests, and then he sends it to me the night before to comment, and he lists all this bullshit about me, and wanted me to respond to it, and which I didn't. So that was the first story, right? So then they started targeting me, my company, my executives. We're going to show. I don't work for that company anymore, so I'm going to show some of the targeted Twitter posts they made. Also, Erwin, God, I forgot her name. She was in charge of Twitter at the time. I was sending her these messages that were coming from Tischhauser and Antifa and tagging my boss, our CEO, North American CEO, global CEO, our customers, my conferences, and then tagging our LGBTQ folks, from the company, trying to, get them to fire me. And they did this to all kinds of people. And Shannon, has a vast amount of stories of people that were part of her Awake Illinois. They did the same thing. And those of you that are familiar with Antifa, is what they try to do as part of their little cookbook or handbook is go after people even when they start to rise and try to take them out. Well, they try to take me out. They try to take Shannon out. They aggressively, and it didn't work. We're still here. It was a bumpy road at times, but we're still here. So I just want people to, part of this segment is to see how evil and corrupt these guys are. They're awful, right? They're paid by the Democrats, they're funded by the Democrats, and then once they kick up these biased stories, then the other media picks it up and they use it to try to discredit us and silence our voices. And so that's what we're going to talk about tonight. Mike, why don't you jump in? I know you've been covering this on some of your other shows, and
Oh yeah. Yeah, well, like this Jeff Tischhauser or Tischler, whatever his name is like the perfect example of what they do. Whoops, wrong scene. They have somebody like this publish a story and then they launder it through the mainstream media. Everybody points back to this as their source. There's no confirmation there's anything. It's just at best opinion, but the idea is just to destroy your reputation, destroy your credibility, make you look like some kind of monster. And this is again, this is the media circle jerk that they always do, but now they've been caught in the act. I mean, we'll talk more about this, but they spent $3 million funding like literal Nazis and white supremacists, and they got a great return on their money. They raised an approximate $87 million off the $3 million they spent funding things like the Unite the Right rally, Charlottesville,
Patriot Front. Patriot Front.
Patriot Front.
Remember, I was just paying attention to it today. I'm like, holy shit! Everyone's like, that's the Fed. No, that's the Southern Poverty Law Center. It's not the Fed.
Well, it's probably both. Same with
probably.
See if they. Well, we know that so, and I can't remember if this was Seattle or somewhere in Oregon. They had a thing where Patriot Front showed up at some church group's festival, picnic, whatever, to march around out there, and they actually went after them. They ripped their masks off, and 3 or 4 of them were CIA, or worked or had been in the past, supposedly.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, it's cross-pollinated. It's everything. So did they also fund people on January 6th? Did they have people in the crowd that were again working for them?
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
We need a much deeper dive. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just vocally agreeing with you. We saw they were embedded. There was 200 confidential informants and federal agents embedded with that and agitating people. There's people that you saw my videos. I don't even know who this guy was, wrapped up head to toe. And I'm sure that they were paid. They're paid by somebody, right? They were asked by somebody. You got confidential informants that were in there working for the feds. You got feds in there working for the feds. And it kind of, this awakened me to just see how corrupt our government is. The media is. We always know the media is corrupt, but now we got these scumbags from the Southern Poverty Law Center that is like, they're creating their own stories, right?
Yeah.
They're funding their own stories with these other scumbags to pretend they're from the right. And like I posted on X. If you're on X, I posted a video I did about a year ago about Jeff Tischhauser, 30 minutes, right? And I'm like,
Yep.
it's a 30-minute piece. So if you're on X, check that out. And it was obviously before all this stuff came out, right? And I'm like, who are these Nazis they're talking about? Like, where are they? There aren't anybody left. I mean, think about it. Are there Nazis in America? Yes. I mean, they're probably stuck under a hole somewhere in a rock. I mean, they're not out there aggressively. There's hardly any of them. So what do they do? They create their narrative, right? They create this radical right-wing Nazi organization, and then as soon as you do something wrong, they got the double N word. You're a Nazi, or you use the N word against you. You know what I mean? And they try to just destroy you with lies or exaggerations or things they misconstrued on purpose. I put out a meme in the first story about Dennis Rodman back when the Ukraine war just started. And if you remember that Olympic woman that was arrested with weed and stuff, that
yeah.
I
The
forgot her name.
WNBA player.
Yeah. That refused to acknowledge and respect our flag. I guess she does
Yes.
now, supposedly, is what I heard. And
Yeah,
so
I guess Russian prison will do that to you.
Dennis Rodman posted he was going to go over there and meet with Putin and fix everything, right? And so I posted on Getter a meme of this big, funny-looking, boot-lip black guy, a character of Dennis Rodman. So this idiot, Jeff Tischhauser, put this in the story, the Southern Poverty Law Center, the investigator, right? And then he said something like, I put a pre-Civil War character of African Americans, a pre-Civil War racist character of African Americans. No, I fucking searched it out. Sorry, I swore again. I'm trying not to. I found it on the internet. And I just did a search, right, of characters and stuff and put it up there. And it was just because you guys know Dennis Rodman is ugly as hell, man. Oh my God. And this meme looked like him, and that just one example. Another example, and I forgot to put these in there, is me and Alex Stein, 99, the comedian, right? Big booty Latinas, big booty Latinas. He goes to the school boards, got a picture with him. They put that in there as if there's something wrong with him or, whatever. So they exaggerate, they lie, they create their own crises. They create their own problems, and then they use that against us. And we always talk about the Democrats reflect on what they are, right? They call it. So this is another example, right? This fits the MO of the Democrats on everything they do. Just like what's his name, Waltz up there trying to act like he's got the investigation going on the Somalis, right? These people are nuts. I don't know how anybody could be a Democrat now. I don't get it.
No, I mean, the level of dishonesty from their party, they'll do anything if they think it serves their agenda. And that's what we're seeing in California and in every blue city, every blue state right now. You guys are getting taken to the cleaners on your taxes. Things keep getting worse. Your states are falling apart, but they don't care. It's anything to get Trump. They don't care about how bad the conditions are. It's all about obtaining power. I mean, they're freaking out right now over the Supreme Court decision to get rid of these racially drawn districts, which should have gone away decades ago. But they're freaking out.
Mike, because I know you're on top of headline news because you do that all day. Give people those an update if they didn't hear throughout the day what happened. I've been hearing all the racist comments. I've been seeing those, but help everybody understand what the decision was. All right.
All right, let me get this pulled up so everybody can see. So we had breaking: Supreme Court declares Louisiana's newly drawn congressional map an unconstitutional racial gerrymander. Well, first, somebody had to explain to Ketanji Brown Jackson that gerrymander isn't a person. That's when you redraw the lines just for benefit. But they were drawing purely on racial lines. It's gone on since the 1960s. It's got to stop. So the Supreme Court ended that. Trump says he loves it. And Jeff Landry is now suspending Louisiana primaries to redraw district map following SCOTUS ruling. So this is a 2-seat pickup. This is also why Florida moved forward with their redistricting the other day, which is a 4-seat pickup. So we don't light a fire under everybody else's asses, because Republicans could gain dozens of House seats after SCOTUS outlaws racial gerrymandering. And basically, all these states along the South have special districts that they've set aside for blacks, primarily in major cities. But none of these should be allowed. They're not lawful. They're not constitutional. It just took taking this case to the Supreme Court to prove it. Every one of these states should end all of these, and we could pick up 30 seats just there. It'll save the Republicans' asses in the midterms, because right now it ain't looking good, because Congress and the Senate are a bunch of wimps and won't actually take a stand and do anything.
So, understanding this law today, right? What does it mean to us? Those, most of the folks are from Illinois that are watching us, right? What does that mean to us with Pritzker, with the communist state of Illinois?
Probably nothing, because your whole state's already like gerrymandered to hell. And it isn't drawn.
But if it was if it was outlawed, help me understand, right? Do a little SCOTUS for dummies here. If that was outlawed, right? Can we go back and say, we are worse, and we got little slivers and a little glob over here and a glob down there, right? I mean,
yeah. Well, the reason it doesn't affect you guys is because everything's so screwed up there. Like these are districts where it's drawn strictly on racial lines. Like there's one here where I live in Dayton, where they basically have the West Side carved off on its own so that they'll always be Democrats, but it's drawn on racial boundaries. Whereas in Chicago, it's just on Democrats. It's anything they can do to dilute the rural vote. So that's why you have all these little lines that go into Chicago where it's a 80% Democrat base or whatever, to dilute and remove the votes from people that are outside of the cities.
So I got a question for you. I don't know if you can answer this one. So who is ultimately going to say this was a racial boundary, and then that's going to go to court for years, right? You know what I mean? Who's going to make that allegation? Obviously, either side for their benefit, but then is it going to go through all the court systems and go all the way up? And
no, it was all included in this decision, because a lot of these were called, and I don't have the term in front of me right now, but there's a specific term for these carve out districts.
I think it was called the shuck and jive bill.
Yeah, something like that.
The shuck and jive. No more shuck and jive.
But yeah, it was already spelled out, because that's like a lot of these were created in the 60s, and that's where they came from after the civil rights legislation passed. And they literally just had a carve out in the city, like, this is going to be your district now, your representative, blah, blah, blah. And the Democrats have been holding on to that ever since, and it's expanded. So it's all these seats in the South, in conservative states that vote, 70% Republican, but the Democrats somehow have 2-3 seats there because of this law that's been on the books that's now been overturned. So every one of these states needs to eliminate those special districts immediately.
Yeah, it's, to me, to execute that, it's going to be complicated, because like, what percentage qualifies as racial, is it over 51%? There's going to be so much legal battles.
Well,
I bet you.
Well, it's already spelled out. So
is it?
Wow. Yeah, with most of these districts, like, that's why they were created, is under a law that's now been overturned.
Oh, so they could go back and revisit the ones that already were, as to your point, created as a racially created district.
Yep. And it gets even better. So the way the Supreme Court did this decision, we have all these pussies running our states in different places, and a lot of red states, undocumented Democrats that don't want to, upset the balance of power. If you live in one of these districts, you can sue now, force the state to do something, and your state's attorney general, because it's already been decided by the Supreme Court, can't argue against you. So even if your state is too chicken shit to do anything about it, if you live in one of these districts, you can file the lawsuit yourself and force them to do it.
Wow. Well, it's exciting. I hope this is as good as it sounds. I think it is, because I was skipping through the channels around Twitter and stuff, and seeing that there's lots of whining going on from the left, and racism and Jim Crow. They're saying, well, you guys were the founders of Jim Crow, man. You were the architects of Jim Crow. So what the hell are you talking about?
Yeah, ironically, all these special districts were created to to stop the Democrat and their racist policies in the Jim Crow South. So this is a tool of their own construction.
Can you hear me, brother? I can't hear you.
Check,
Hello?
check, 1, 2.
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Shake your head if you could hear me.
I can hear you.
Oh, I can't hear you.
Check, check, 1, 2.
Well, I don't know if you guys can hear me. I know Mike can hear me. So while we're figuring out what the hell's going on here, so we're down in my studio here. Well, it's not even set up yet. I'm in the new house until we get out of
check,
here.
1, 2.
And I'm working off my phone. So I got my phone set up. I didn't even set up the cameras, and I got my construction Ryobi lights over here as my lights, and I'm not even tied into Mike's system. Are you there?
Check, check, 1, 2. Can you hear me now?
Oh, you might have to restart. Well, if you restart, then we lose each other, right?
I can fix it a different way.
Do you know sign language? So I guess we'll go back to the Southern Poverty Law Center. So we talked a little bit about the first story, right? About it was like 4 years ago when I spoke out against the porn. I couldn't get fathers to come and stand up for their kids about these blowjob pictures, the oral sex pictures in the school. They were all scared, right? They were worried about being attacked and targeted like me, having their jobs compromised like me. And so I bought these posters to bring to the school board meeting to make sure that the school board scumbags, the Marxists that are lying to us that this is not porn, right? One of them is a girl wearing a strap-on with the boy. So the girl wants to be a boy, the boy wants to be a girl. He's on his knees, they're together and performing oral sex on the strap-on. So I had my friends, my Proud Boy buddies come, and their fathers, just like they're, people watching this, their fathers. And I said, listen, guys, all these pussies here they refuse to hold my signs. They're scared. Nobody will hold my sign. So what I did was had them come. I said, don't come in your Proud Boy colors. I don't want you to distract from the purpose of why I'm speaking, right? I want to call them out. I want to hold them accountable for putting this porn in our kids' school. And I want the cameras to see the fact that this is pornography. It has nothing to do with gay children, because they're children just like my children, right? So my kids don't have to see. I have twins, they don't have to see blowjobs and stuff. Boy, girl, twins. Oh my God, we got more technical difficulties.
Can you hear me now?
My light's blinking over there. Mike, what's going on?
Are you able to hear me now?
The whole show's blowing up.
I know, and I don't understand
So
why.
I can't hear you.
All right, let me see if I can figure something out here.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it might just be on your end.
So they came, they hold the posters for me, right? I said, don't do anything. That one woman I mentioned that was Antifa that connected and got Jeff Tischhauser to write the story for Southern Poverty. Nope, can't hear it. Southern Poverty Law Center. So, she was there. They called the Sun-Times. They took photos. They knew who the guys were, even though they weren't dressed as Proud Boys. They didn't say anything. They didn't do anything wrong. They didn't yell. They didn't flash they just held my posters for me, right? Front page of the Chicago Sun-Times. Proud Boys take over school board meeting. Swear to God. Jeff Tischhauser writes a stupid-ass story, the first one in the Southern Poverty Law Center. I'm a racist, bigot, hate kids, hate gay children, hate everybody. I was devastated. I was devastated when I saw that Southern Poverty Law Center story came out. Matter of fact, when I saw the email he sent to me in the FOIA that he sent to my kid's school, I was like, oh my God. I was like, holy shit. And the story came out on November 31st, 2022. And then they ran it a smaller version of the story on December 1st of 2022 out of Washington, D.C. And then my twins were VIP guests of Charlie Kirk, all expenses paid, to AmFest a few weeks later. And so we went as the whole family. My kids got to bring 2 friends with them. And after the Southern Poverty Law Center came out, the story that we're hearing about the news right now, right? They started tagging FBI and the Chicago field office, saying I was a terrorist, racist, a bigot, and they worked at the time. They worked with the Biden administration, so they were paid to consult They were paid to consult to the Department of Justice, FBI. So if you heard maybe about 8 months ago, Kash Patel said he ended the relationship with the Southern Poverty Law Center. If any of you guys remember that, so I I didn't know, and probably most of you didn't know they had a consulting arm where they would go around and teach federal law enforcement, state and local law enforcement who the radical extremists are in the United States of America. I swear to God. Well, they are us. They are us, right? They are not Antifa. They are not BLM. They don't mention them. So they go around. I can't hear you still, Mike. They go around and they
Yeah.
teach them to come after us, right? They identify us, they tag us. That's what happened to me, and I was kind of shocked because I didn't have a podcast, I didn't do anything. I was just a dad saying I don't want blowjob pictures of my kids' schools, and so when we were flying out to Phoenix for Charlie's event, my that's when I found out I was quote a terrorist. My wife and kids were quad-assed, all of us, and that was triggered by the Southern Poverty Law Center. This was 2 years after January 6th. And I didn't go in, I didn't fight. Even in this guy, Jeff Tischhauser, that we're going to talk about if we could get this fixed. Oh my God, I hope we get it fixed, Mike.
Yeah.
Um,
Check your
uh,
phone.
I can't hear him, but he looks very stressed. I think we're screwed. I can
No,
tell.
it's
So Jeff Tischhauser, the the Antifa guy that wrote the story about me. He's a Chicago Antifa. And this again goes towards the Southern Poverty Law Center. They also had another Antifa guy that was arrested in Atlanta. If you remember when they had there was a big encampment they set up there, and there was some riots with Atlanta police and stuff. And there was a SPLC attorney actually embedded with them. So they work with these radical leftists, and it's probably some of their connection and how they fund their money to some of these Antifa guys. I bet you my right arm. I bet you that's going to come out eventually. Watch, mark my word. And so we were labeled terrorists. My family, I was labeled a terrorist. I lost my, pre-check privileges. They started going after my job, and we're going to show some of the messages and the things that they put up on X if Mike can figure this out. Oh my God, Mike. And
it's your phone.
can you restart it and we'll just come back? Oh, check my phone. My phone is my camera. The hell?
Oh no.
All right. So,
Y-
hey,
My
listen, you guys that are watching right now, what the hell do you want for nothing? Right?
yeah.
What do you want for nothing? Oh my God. I got to check
I
my phone. I'm assuming he sent me a text message. All right,
yeah.
let's see what we got here. Let me see here. Well, you got to enjoy it.
Yeah, I think my audio is
Oh my
going
God, you
out.
think it's just me?
Yep, it is.
Is
I'm
that
watching it
true?
right now.
All right, let me go back in then.
All right, perfect. All right, sorry about that. I was assumed that the problem was on my end somewhere, but I don't know, maybe the batteries died in his headset. Um, and I'm a little distracted too with what else was going on here. So I'll go back to these headlines I pulled earlier real quick. Hey, can you hear me now? Hey, there you go. Perfect.
Thank God. Thank God.
All right. Yeah, well, we shouldn't. I was concerned before that people wouldn't be able to hear the videos either.
Well,
But
it's
yeah,
weird. So just so I know, right, while everyone's watching, how come I couldn't hear you, but everybody else could? What the hell happened?
I have no idea. I thought maybe your headset died, and that's why you wouldn't be able to hear anything from the show. But and that's why I was telling you to check the phone. But when you jump back in and it was working, I guess we're okay. Who knows?
Okay. So I was trying
It's
to
fun.
fill in the time, not knowing that you were able to talk. So, okay, great. So anyway, Southern Poverty Law Center absolutely works with the federal government. They were under the Biden administration. They were the ones that Southern Poverty Law Center triggered me to become a domestic terrorist. Their collaboration with the FBI and the Biden administration. That's what triggered it, right? We're going to get to the bottom of that, and we'll talk about that later in the show.
Yeah.
So, do you think now is a good time to show that we can walk through some. So I want to show you who Jeff Tischhauser is. Remember his dad, he's on his Blue Sky account. You'll see he's, when his dad died, he put his dad was a radical leftist, got arrested during the 1970s riots and stuff. So throw that up, and we're going to go through some of these text. But that's that scumbag. Look at the guy. I mean, he can't even grow a beard. This is Jeff Tischhauser. These are some of what he's done in school. So stop right there.
I don't have a way to pause this.
Oh, you're kidding me.
No.
That's what I said. Oh, I said we could stop it. Oh.
Let me figure something out here.
All right. So these are some, again, we're like technically dysfunctional, man.
Yeah, sorry. I
So
thought you had this.
so this is some of the stuff I wanted to talk to as we could go by. That's a letter from Troy Niels to the TSA congressman. That's the TSA saying I no longer out of the blue don't fit. That's my company. They said I don't fit their profile for TSA PreCheck after having it for years. This was after the Southern Poverty Law Center wrote their hit piece of, against me. So I oh my God, it's going so fast. So there's a message in there where Jeff Tischhauser, SPLC employee, was working with Antifa and asking them where to send their emails. This was a long time ago, and I pulled it, and I downloaded it, and I saved it. This guy here is saying you're about to lose your job. This is when the Antifa guys were going after my executives, and they were tagging my executives. I worked for a big international French company that was very woke, very DEI, and
Yeah.
Mike, there's no way you could
No, I'm looking at.
down.
Yeah, there's not a good way.
There's no pause on there.
No, not for something like that. I can do this a different way. That's what I'm working on right now. Just give me a second.
Okay, so what they do is they coordinate with the Southern Poverty Law Center has their different stories, right? They were funding the KKK, the Patriot Front, and all this other stuff, right, to create the narrative that they want. It's for twofold. It's to discredit us and it's to silence us, right? It's to make us look bad so they could help the Democrats win elections. So they basically use the SPLC as a weapon, but it's only the beginning of the funnel, right? So the SPLC will write the story, right? They'll create the narrative, fake narrative. They'll lie, they'll attack us and harass us, right? So once they publish it, the rest of the media uses that as the Bible, right? And so they'll take those stories and pieces and start populating them into their messaging. CNN, MSNBC, all the mainstream, ABC, NBC, and they use those as weapons and tools, and they use them for marketing campaign in some of the elections, right? So SPLC is supposed to be credible. They're not credible, and thank God what happened this week. So that comes out, and they start to go after us. Oh, you got it, Mike?
I got it figured out. Here we go.
Okay, great. All right, this is Jeff Tischhauser. So you know what? As a man, if you can't grow a beard, go back to that. Go back to. If you can't, don't worry about it. Stop right there. Yeah. If you're a man and you can't grow a damn beard, the hell is that shit?
Are you really a man?
Look at that.
He's probably
Look
just
at this.
taking
The guy's like
hormones.
this guy's 40 years old. He just graduates college. He's he was a student for 20 years, whatever the hell he did, University of Wisconsin. Why would you have that on your face? Look at that shit. All right, go to the next one. So this is LinkedIn. So I went on his LinkedIn, you guys. He took down Southern Poverty Law Center. The next slide will show that. Watch this. What's wrong, Jeffy boy? You don't see SPLC on there anymore. He used to brag about it. I have it somewhere. I'll find it. Before because he came after me, right? He doesn't have SPL.
I wonder if he's handing off money to the Klan. Now he probably don't want to talk about that.
Yeah, Jeffy boy, why aren't you proud about it? So let's go to the next one. This is real important. This next one, there. Just this guy, Antifa, right? Please send all concerns and complaints to the main email for Antifa. All right. This guy's helping Antifa. He's tagging Antifa guys. This was years ago, 2022, right before he was getting a little more prominent with the SPLC. I don't even know if he worked for the SPLC at the time when I got. Yeah, he did because he came after me. So this is Parents Involved in Education. These are the parent organizations: Moms for America, Moms for Liberty, Shannon Adcock, Awake Illinois, Parents Involved in Education, which is my chapter, my organization. But he also went out of his way to specifically call out the Illinois Parents Involved in Education, thanks to Jeff Tischhauser, Mr. Antifa. You want to go to the next one?
Yep.
So we're showing you there's the Illinois Parents Involved in Education, right? So they put our national organization on there, but they had to go a step further, right? And label the Illinois chapter, which is mine, because Jeff wanted to have his fingerprint on it, right?
Yeah, and there's Moms
Go to
for
the next one.
America,
Let me
Illinois,
fix
too.
this battery here. Read it. What's the next one, Mike?
Next is him messaging Cap Gemini. This is your guy, Terry Newsom. He's a hashtag domestic terrorist.
Yeah, so this is a perfect example of how they go after your job, right? So after the story came out, they took my LinkedIn page and they started. This is Antifa, right? So this again shows you the connection of the SPLC and their collaboration with the Antifa, right, as a weapon. SPLC weaponized, and then they work with their Antifa associated. It says it right there. It's anti. So these guys that run this are Jeremy and Jason Hammond. They're twin brothers. They both went to prison. Jeremy was a part of Anonymous and a hacker. They're organizers. They're full-time anarchists. And so what they do is they started tagging all these different Antifa, the main ones, the more active ones. There's a lot of wannabes, right? So go to the next one. Okay. Chicago dad placed on a watch list after objecting to pornography. This came out on Epoch Times. And it was right after this, right after the Southern Poverty Law Center story came out, and I, learned I was on a watch list. All right, that's another one. That's the Epoch Times, obviously supporting, and it's actually these stories. Thank God these stories came out from Epoch Times. They got the attention of Congressman Matt Gaetz, and January, after the story came out, like a month later, I got a text message from this guy named John Wilson. I don't know if John's watching. John Wilson is an attorney for Congressman Matt Gaetz. And he told me to call him the next day. I knew it was good news because in the text, he said he works for Matt Gaetz. And I said, how'd you get my number? And he goes, I think we got it from Jim Jordan's office, which hopefully that's true. I'm going to reach out and share what I got on these Antifa and Southern Poverty Law Center to try to give them more evidence to show them how they weaponize the organization to come after us. So go to the next one, buddy.
All right.
This is when Antifa started threatening me. They were shutting, they were calling. So we would have venues. Shannon and I had a couple events with Moms for America, Moms for Liberty, Parents Involved in Education, Gays Against Groomers, Log Cabin Republicans, gay organizations. They would call the venues and threaten violence on the young kids that would answer the phone at one of the venues. They would call if they had bands. They would contact the bands and say, you're racist, you're Nazis. So then the bands that were going to play in the same venue that we're going to host our parents event on an off night, right? When there's no need for music, they were using that as a weapon to shut down our events. We had a number of events that were shut down because of this Southern Poverty Law Center bullshit that was weaponized. And then they would send these stories to the venues and to the bands and to the organizations, to the hotels to come after us. Next one.
Yep. It's thinking about it. There it goes.
Is this Cap Gemini? Yeah, this is your guy, Terry Newsom. They're tagging the company I work for, big international consulting firm out of Paris, France. Need I say more how woke they are? Paris, France. And they would tag my executives and do everything to try to fire me. This was like 4 years ago. Next one, Bubba.
There it goes.
This is the story. This is the story that came out, the first story in the Southern Poverty Law Center. So Jeff Tischhauser and his little graphics boy, see that? I'm doing the okay sign. So that image of me I was in Mount Prospect, and the police in Mount Prospect had a blue line patch on their shoulders. All the leftists up there were protesting. Antifa was there. I went up there with my police officer friend to support the police officers, right? And so we're standing next to the Proud Boy guys. And then there's one guy that was the president of the chapter there. I know all the guys, right? I'm not embarrassed to say that. I know all the guys. And I love the guys. Um, and so we got a picture. And then he's doing his Proud Boy thing right out at the time. I'm like 60 years old. Oops, sorry. I'm 60 years old. I'm laughing. So if you can see in that picture, I was laughing. And so they put it in the Southern Poverty Law Center cover of the story as if they said I was flashing white supremacist hate signs. The OK is a white supremacist hate sign. Another example of what scumbags these guys are. All right, buddy. This is the letter that went to Troy Niels. So when you saw those Epoch Times stories, Troy saw those stories and gave the reporter his cell phone number to tell me to call him. And I talked to him, and which is the guy. I mean, I'm from Illinois, right? And the guy saw the stories. He was at the time on the transportation committee, and he said, "I'm going to reach out to the TSA for you." And this is the response he got from the TSA. Basically, he said, "Mr. Newsom no longer fits the profile for our privilege of TSA PreCheck." They never said why, right? And then Matt Gaetz sent a letter to Garland, Ray, and Mayorkas. I didn't put that up here, I don't think, but he wanted to know why they put me on that list. And this is another TSA FOIA back to me where they said I no longer fit the profile. Again, this all happened after the Southern Poverty Law Center story came out by an Antifa investigator. This again tagging my job. I mean, you guys, there's hundreds of them. It's your employee Terry Newsom was a participant. Oh, at J6 here, making fun about my shutting us down. Oh, gays against groomers. They make fun. They're saying we're anti-gay. They're threatening gay organizations, gays against groomers that were participating with us. They said they're going to shut our events down all the time. So this is stuff I'm going to get to Jim Jordan's office to show part of the coordinated effort between the Southern Poverty Law Center and Antifa. Next. Let's see here. No Proud Boy affiliate was at January 6th. Terry's a fascist who's trying to make a career out of his serial harassment of the trans queer community. Anywhere he goes, we will be there to stop his hate speech. Right? So my hate speech was, I don't want blowjob porn, nasty sex images in my kid's school. What's this one here? Oh, this is Antifa associate with Jeff Tischhauser, tagging my company again, showing the alignment of Jeff Tischhauser with Antifa and how they work together. The Southern Poverty Law Center, i.e. Jeff Tischhauser, and Antifa, tagging my employer at the time. Next one, Babaluch.
Yep. 1 second. There we go.
Okay, Terry Newsom's aggressions and outright hate towards the LGBTQ community. So this one is interesting. They tag Capgemini, our CEO, international CEO, and the head of our DEI organization, the EVP. They tagged them all, trying to harass them into firing me. That's what this is about right there. They tagged them, trying to get me fired. Matter of fact, 1 second, Mike, we'll leave it there. Leave it there. At one time, I got called in by HR for an investigation. So one of these scumbags called to my HR department, said they work in Chicago, out of my Chicago office. And they said, we have a tip hotline for a big organization like that. And in the tip hotline, where they didn't say who they were, right, because they had burner phones, they said they quit Capgemini because they feel their life is threatened because you have an anti-LGBT employee, Terry Newsom. They feel their life's threatened. And when he's in the office, he walks up to cubicles with pride flags and openly makes fun of them. Well, this is right after, first of all, I work in sales. I never go to an office. Secondly, it was right after COVID. We had 3 massive floors in Chicago. None of them had anybody in them except the receptionist because it was empty. We shut them down because of COVID. So they had their investigation. And obviously, I didn't, they knew it was a lie, but this is the extent of what these scumbags do in coordination with the Southern Poverty Law Center. Next one.
There you go.
Yeah, that's the Antifa guy. I think this is Jeff Tischhauser because he has his main page and then Omega Man. And so I think this is Jeff Tischhauser's page that he uses to go after us more aggressively. Next one. Okay. Here's the very last sentence is very important, right? Um,
Huh. We asked Terry
anti-LGBT.
why he tried to overthrow the government on 1/6. No response.
So first of all, that weasel's never asked me anything. He sent me an email I didn't respond to. Didn't have that in there. And I mean, I wasn't even, I mean, for those of you who know me or watch the show, I was at January 6th. I left before anybody got inside. And later he says it doesn't align with the video. Bro, I don't know what video. These guys lie about everything, right? I didn't
Yeah.
know people got into the Capitol. Me and my good friend Rob Waller, who just retired as a sheriff, and I'm sitting on there exhausted, you know, because it's a long walk. For those of you in DC, we're walking all over the place. And I sit down like, oh, and I look at on Fox News. I'm like, holy shit, Rob! They got into Capitol. They're in the Capitol. So this guy's trying to act like, in his attack on me. This Antifa Southern Poverty Law Center guy was trying to act as if I was there when people went in the Capitol. Go ahead, Mike.
Yep. There we go.
Oh, here we go. Terry also claims in his interview, when he saw one of my interviews, we were back in the hotel room before we knew anyone entered the Capitol. However, this claim is contradicted by timestamps of video he posted to the social media and these photographs. No, absolutely, 100% lie. And by the way, I was investigated for it. I think everybody knows that. I was not there. Let's see, what's this one? Oh, yeah, this is a funny one. So they tag Capgemini again. HBO did a documentary on Santa Camp, right? A LGBTQ event. And what they're not saying is that this radical leftist Marxist church that's ran by a transvestite in Downers Grove had trans Santa for children, trans Santa Claus for the young children that showed up. And I went with parents and my Proud Boy buddies came. I dressed up as Bad Santa. I swear to God, I had a few drinks. We met at the bar, and I went there, and they were filming for HBO. And we didn't even get off the sidewalk. We couldn't even see kids. Now there was another scene that HBO had where some of the grandparents were yelling at the kids on the other side, right? And we didn't even get to see kids. And the HBO, I was interviewed. It was on the HBO show, and I'm dressed up as Santa. And he goes, the guy's like, well, why are you here, Santa? I said, I'm here because you guys are trying to indoctrinate these young babies. If a child is so young and so naive to think that there's a real Santa Claus, they really believe in Santa Claus, and they really believe Santa's going to bring them gifts, and they really want to come and see Santa, they sure the hell don't know if Santa's got a penis or not, if he's a boy, a girl, wannabe. They're young, innocent children. You guys are forcing your shit down their throats on purpose. You guys are doing it for yourselves, not for these children, because they don't care. If they're young enough to believe in an imaginary Santa that brings them gifts, the last thing they think about is, do they want to have their penis cut off or not? You notice I didn't use the word dick because I'm not swearing anymore. Okay. Oh, that's a double.
Yeah. All right. There you go.
Oh, yeah. So we found racist imagery and anti-LGBTQ slurs he uses on Getter and organizations, a local chapter of the anti-LGBTQ hate group. They said I tried to start this group, Mass Resistance. They've been founded forever. I was the president of Parents Involved in Education. This is another example how these scumbags lie. So I know them. They're anti-LGBT like all of us, right? They were mislabeled by the Southern Poverty Law Center. They were weaponized against them because they're very successful helping parents. I did not. If I tried to start a mass resistance chapter in Illinois, I would tell you guys. I didn't. This guy just makes this shit up. He said his employer knows about his political activities and he's okay with it. This was after the investigation, right? They knew that these guys were coming after me, right? I said something on an interview, but then they took this and they started tagging my executives and saying, hey, Terry's okay with you having LGBTQ hate. You're okay with the hate against the gay community. They weaponize it. They lie. This guy's a piece of shit scumbag. SPLC hires Antifa associates to do their dirty work. Go ahead. Next one, brother.
Pretty much.
This is his Antifa buddy. After they tagged all my executives back in the first story, you about to lose your job. right? They're bragging. This is probably after they made that phone call, right? To pretend that they were an employee that lost, that quit on cap. All right, next one, brother. Oh, that's it. All right, so that all ties in. That all ties into the first story that came out. The second story, which I didn't even throw that up here, was a story about me and Tom Holman. It was in the Gateway Pundit, and I had private meetings for Tom Holman at his hotel in O'Hare. And Gateway wrote a good story about it. And then Southern Poverty Law Center, Jeff Tischhauser, Antifa, wrote a story about me and Tom, and he had us on the cover of his story, and saying that um, Tom Holman meets with Proud Boy associate or whatever to talk about immigration. So then they started saying that I hate asylum seekers, poor innocent asylum seekers, right? I would go and confront, for those of you who watch my show regularly or see me on, follow me. I went and confronted Trent Largo face to face, right? I got inside their centers and stuff. And do I not want any illegals here? Yes, but I was confronting, the worst of the worst, as Tom Holman would say. But they go and act like I was after poor as asylum seekers. So when I would go and film them, you have a mix of everything, but you have one common denominator. All of them are illegal, and none of them came here legally. So who gives a shit, right? They kept tagging my work again and again. And eventually, shortly after that, I got laid off. But it wasn't because of performance. So, will I do it again? Absolutely, without a doubt. I'm glad I did what I did, and so I'm going to take this information, go back to the folks in DC. One final recap on my story in 2023, and I didn't have time to put these pictures in there. I went to DC with the Center for Self-Governance. The Center for Self-Governance, who connected with me, and they asked me to come represent parents who were targeted by this SPLC. This was under the Biden administration. So for those of you who follow this, when the Attorney General first announced that they're going after the SPLC with 12 indictments, right, and they're talking about it, he goes on to say, well, this is an investigation that started in 2023 under the Biden administration. I was one of the people. I got pictures again. I didn't put them up. I had a half an hour with Senator Mike Lee. I met with Josh Hawley's team. I met with John Wilson from Matt Gaetz' office. I met with so many different people, and it was about SPLC and Antifa, but primarily about SPLC and how they're going to go after their nonprofit status. The one caveat was it was under the Biden administration, right? So when you heard the Attorney General say, yeah, this started under the Biden administration, but it stopped, right? And I was wondering why we didn't hear. We talked to, I was there for 2 days, all kinds of different meetings. I was excited. So I mark my words, you guys, the SPLC will lose their nonprofit now. They will. They were looking at it. They got all the evidence that they were collecting back in 2023. Now this is enough to push them off the cliff. We had Kash Patel, who said, he stopped, he pulled them off of spending money with the FBI. They are going to be losing their nonprofit. There you go.
Yeah,
there
Jim
you go.
Jordan is dragging the SPLC interim head, Brian Fair, in to testify before Congress over funding the KKK and white supremacy groups. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. Like I said earlier, we need to look at and see if they were funding people that were embedded on January 6th. The excuse we get from the media right now is, well, the FBI embeds people in hate groups too. Well, the SPLC is not the FBI. They might think they are. They might, want to pretend they are. But in reality, like we said last time, the supply of racism is not enough to meet left-wing demand. So they have to subsidize it. And that's how all this shit happened.
Yes. Yeah, and this is just the tip of the iceberg, you guys. Just very the tip of the iceberg. So I am going to reach out to Jim Jordan's office tomorrow and send this stuff. Unfortunately, Matt Gaetz isn't in there anymore, because that would have been awesome. And I got to get all this information to them to show them how they collaborate. It's a collaborative effort between Antifa, working for the Southern Poverty Law Center, and collaborating with Antifa to go after and target parents groups and parents organization. It's basically they're the foot soldiers of the Democratic Party, from the media propaganda to the physical violence and the threats. And they're using it, weaponizing them together to come after us. And unfortunately, Republicans are full of weasels that are too scared to even defend their own children, That's why I'm
Yeah.
doing this. It's like I was shocked. I couldn't find fathers to come up and said, we have a senator, John Curran. He's like 6'8". He's like the Jolly Green Giant. He's the Senate Minority Leader for the state of Illinois,
Yeah.
Republican Minority Leader. His daughter played volleyball. My daughter, Downers Grove South. I begged that Jamoke to help speak out and say porn doesn't belong in our daughter's school. I got boy-girl twins, and he refused. He said it'll become political, Tara. John Curran said it'll become political. This was early
It's
on. I'm like,
already political.
that's what I said. I go, it's political. They want porn and transvestites. We don't. Then he goes, oh, it'll be a distraction. I'm like, I don't understand. This is before I became a committeeman and all that shit. We later found out that he's being funded. John Curran, Illinois senator, the minority leader, the top guy, is being funded by teachers unions. That's why he stayed silent. And if you have a man like that won't even say that porn does not belong in my little beautiful daughter's school, how is he going to represent us? How is he going to represent my daughter when he doesn't even represent his own daughter, right? So this is going on within our country. And it's really bad in Illinois. And that's why we call it behind enemy lines here, because we're stuck in this shithole with a bunch of Republicans that are incompetent and irrelevant, while we got the Southern Poverty Law Center being called in by the Democrats to come in and attack us. If we start getting credibility and recognition like Shannon did in Awake and stuff, they come after us. Well, we're still here with no help from the Republicans.
It's pathetic.
Yeah. So let's see how much time we got left. Oh my God. All right. So we're going to play a little fun one on the very end here. So a lot of us know that, I've been attacked by these Democrats that infiltrated the Republican Party. Speaking of clowns, right? So this crazy woman who she was a registered Democrat through 2022. And then she came in and she's disrupting our party. She's going after everybody. She's a whack job. So I love to have fun, as with some of my response on my memes. So this video is for those from Illinois who know crazy Rocio Cleveland, a whack job who tried to go after me on Dan Proft's show. And she jumped in on the show at the very end. She called in. I don't know how she got through the screening when they were talking about the potential assassination of Trump. And she tried to act like she's a political target of harassment when she harasses all of us. And then when we harass back, she freaks out. So you want to play that, baby? And then you could close it out after, Mike.
Hello, everyone. Just in case you didn't see earlier this week, that crazy Puerto Rican Rocio Cleveland somehow snuck on Dan Proft's show when he was talking about political violence, and she's trying to act like she's a victim of political violence. She claims that me and Val are Democrats. Now, furthest thing from a Democrat. I was raised Southwest Side, Italian Union family, Democrats. I was never active at all as a Democrat, ever. I was just raised as a Democrat. So I don't know, she's, making shit up. Matter of fact, I did way more as a Republican by far than anything her and her three cohorts who lose every election have ever done for the Republican Party. So it's kind of funny. And then she goes on to say that she was stalked. Now, this woman stalks more than anybody in the state. She stalked me numerous times. She stalks other people. She goes after their jobs. She calls their jobs. She openly admits it, right? And then she's trying to act like she's a victim. She's not a victim. She's a psycho whack job nut. I don't know why she's not disavowed from the Republican Party. She's not even a Republican. I mean, she was a registered Democrat through 2016. And she still acts, you walk like a Democrat, talk like a Democrat, act like a Democrat, you're a Democrat. Look at her behavior. She is still a Democrat, and she's working to disrupt our party with the rest of the clowns she hangs around with. So listen to this interview. It's pretty interesting. Proft gets rid of her pretty quickly, and you could tell if you listen to Proft's tone, he knows she's a fucking freak. Enjoy.
Is it Rocio in Makanda?
Yes. Hi, my name is Rocio Cleveland in Wakanda. I ran in the 9th Congressional District this past election.
Okay.
No money.
Hi
She didn't
there.
raise a penny.
I'm calling because I totally agree. I believe what happened to President Trump was a tragedy, and it's happening here in Illinois too. But I think a lot of people are not aware of the situation of individuals who are running in any political position. Like example for myself. I had Val Ojeda threaten to behead me. And then we have Terry Newsom, which, by the way, they're both Democrat plants. And Terry Newsom is a government informant who according to him, he is part of the Latin Kings when he was in jail. He was arrested for having cocaine. And he's a really bad person. And so this is the thing. Here in Illinois, there is no Republican Party. It's a uni party. That's what people need to understand. And so when you have true conservatives like myself that are running, these people go after you and attack you. Even people who say they're conservatives and they're really not.
Like you.
And clearly, I went to court, and because the Lake County court system is so woke, they're like, oh, well, you're a public official. You know, people are allowed to take shots at you. And I think we need to create laws that protect politicians from these stalkers and people slandering us and threatening us with our lives and our families.
Thanks for the call, Rocio. Well, there are laws.
Right.
There are
Freak. He knows she's full of shit. Hold on here.
But
his peoples. I'm not the crazy ones. It's that guy Terry Newsom. He's really the crazy one. I'm normal. That peoples need to know I'm a very, very normal person who's very smart. Crazy, hard laughter. I's very famous now. I was just on that prof show letting all the peoples. I smart. I warned that people's knows that Terry Newsom is an undercover Democrat. Trust me. I's not just a normal rice and bean eater. I's famous, smart, and well-liked by everyone. My peoples loves and trusts me.
Lord.
Everyone knows I smart and normal. Adios, my fans. Maniacala.
So that's more for a local thing. She's a crazy bitch, man. Everybody knows she's a joke, and she couldn't raise a penny. She did beat one. The only person she beat was a guy from China with nice guy, great heart. He couldn't speak any English, and she barely beat him. She took third out of 4 people, raised no money. Nobody. I mean, she's despised by the whole state. And then she goes out and tries to pretend she's a Republican. She's a Democratic plant. And it's you know what? They're reflecting like typical Democrats, right? They're doing exactly what they really are with everything, including these people who are on the take that are in here trying to disrupt the party. So I think we're done with the show, Mike. Do you want to close it out? Sorry about the technical difficulties.
Yeah, no worries, man. It happens. Yeah, it happens. Yeah, thank you guys for joining us tonight. Please like, share, and subscribe. Help us to grow so we can bring more people in the news.